Very interesting topic here, very brief video. We've had 4 gearboxes since the new year, and now we're not even at the end of February, all with the same major issue that will leave the owner stranded by the roadside and with a good £400–500 parts bill plus labour. And it's all been willfully done by one or more garages out there, and I wonder if you can spot it. I'm sure you've noticed we have an overdriven box here, and that's where most of the problems come. There is no overdrive inhibit switch. As I say, 4th gearbox we've seen this year like this. Now, I did have somebody the other day who tried convincing me this was a really brilliant idea because it gave him an 8-speed gearbox. Now that's fine, but this is a D-type overdrive, and the D-type overdrive is very marginal even on a standard B18 car. It will only just handle the power and torque. So it has to be treated with great delicacy. Hence Volvo fitted an overdrive inhibit switch here to restrict its use to 4th gear only. So that's why it's there. Now you could say later on, with the J-type overdrive on the back end, it could take the power and torque through all gears. And yeah, I think you'd probably be right. Waste of time, but you're probably right. What the big problem is though, whereas in 1st, 2nd, 3rd and even 4th, you may one day find that your overdrive fails entirely, and it's the way in which you discover this is that first of all you lose way going in reverse, and then you'll lose all forward motion. The clutch in here just slips. However, if you hit reverse with an overdrive engaged, you will destroy it completely. You might get away with it a couple of times, but the 4th or 5th time you'll completely munch the overdrive because of the way the gearing works. And so even if you decide that you need 8-speed gearbox, you need something to tell it not to work when in reverse. So that's it. Just insane thing to do. Shows a deep lack of understanding of an overdrive.
They're also very rare, Rob, aren't they? So they're very difficult to get parts for.
They are, and if you munch these in reverse, you pretty much have lost your overdrive because the parts just can't be found anymore. So besides your something like £800 bill, if it's repairable, it might not be repairable at all, and therefore you go back down to an M40 gearbox. So if your gearbox engages overdrive in all gears, I would strongly recommend you sort it out now, rather than being bitten in where you sit, as our Texan colleagues might say. So that's what we're going to do. Off with his gearbox top, modify it to take the inhibit switch, back on, and back into the car, and everything will be sorted tickety-boo. Incidentally, on a slightly other topic, the gear shift. If your gear shift is very sloppy and vague, the reason is that this bronze bushing inside the gearbox top here will have worn heavily, and we actually machine them out, create a new bronze bush, insert that and lock it down with a pair of grub screws there, and all of a sudden you get a nice, accurate and precise gear shift again. This already has the threaded boss for an overdrive inhibit here, so I'll be using this and replacing his original one. We'll be back there when that's all done. Okay, I popped out the 6 top bolts, and now it's a matter of just encouraging the top cover to break the seal with the cork gasket. Let's try this way first. careful not to lose the detent springs as you lift off the cover, and I'll pop it immediately back into neutral there. If you forget to put it into neutral, when you offer this back up again, this plate will sit on top of the selector fork and you'll crack this plate. Not uncommon. We get asked for this about 3 or 4 times a year, this plate, where somebody has left it in gear, tried to put this back on, which naturally rests in neutral, and then they break the plate because that is sitting on top of the fork. And then we carefully pare away the cork gasket. Actually hasn't been on there this long, which kind of explains why it was so easy to get the top cover off. I find these safety blades really hugely useful in many tasks, just loose, not even in a blade holder. There we go, that's come off very cleanly. And on we go with the new gasket. There we are. And I've just got to build up the selector plate now. Come over here. Okay, here we go. Off with the wee C-clip and the washer. There we go, C-clip and washer, out with the plate, and in with the new. So, engage the spring in the top, hook one bit over, and then, using your fingers, hook the other bit over, working on the far side from the spring first, on with the washer, and on with the circlip, there, and finally on with the washer, on with the circlip. There we go, we're ready to fit that to the gearbox. Let's go. Okay, so the gasket's already there as we did earlier. 2 checks, make sure you've got all 3 detent springs, make sure everything is sitting in neutral here, and of course you've got your 4th drive inhibit arm here. Okay, on it goes. Just check as you gently push down that everything looks flush, which it does. That'll be a bit of an indicator you've got a problem if it doesn't. Whilst holding the top box down square, we put in the 2 mid bolts. There we go. Now we can relax, everything's secure. Now you don't. Dig! No. No.
No.
Now you don't want to over tighten these bolts because all that will happen is you'll split the cork. If you want to torque, I would say 21 Newton meters. 21 Newton meters for the 5/16 thread is fairly typical in a Volvo. Okay, but there, 1, 3, 4. That's Deke wanting to play, by the way. Deke the Brittany Spaniel. Okay, there we go. Now, out with that plug. And let's go and get a inhibit switch off the shelf. Now the new inhibits are never quite as nice as the originals, so always check it very carefully once you've installed it. So we're just going to put on the copper washer. Down it goes. Nip it up. And there we go, so no connection at the moment. Pop it into 4th gear, and there we go, connection. So that will be allowing the overdrive to engage. Any other gear is open circuit and the overdrive doesn't engage. There we go, ready to go back in the car. Okay, so there we go. Overdrive with the correct inhibit switch. So let me just reiterate that. If you have an overdrive that is operating in all gears, you are very likely to break it. If it operates in reverse, you will break it sooner. So always make sure your inhibit switch is doing something, or is there at all. Now let's just go on to the topic of competing in motorsport. For those of you that are interested, my personal advice is that's your immediate reason for getting rid of the overdrive. You've got 15 kilos of added weight sitting here, and especially if it's a D-type, you will fail to finish one rally at some point because they just can't cope, even when we upgrade them. However, if you insist on running an overdrive in a motorsport car, so you're breaking the 2 cardinal rules about motorsport. One is reliability, you've broken that rule by running an overdrive, and 2 is weight is king in a motorsport vehicle. Don't tell me that there's other stuff that's going to make you more competitive. An overdrive will not make you more competitive, it will make you less competitive. So that's why we always delete them. However, we do occasionally get asked to retain one in a motorsport car, and in that case this goes up to Dave at Overdrive Spares in Coventry, and he raises the oil pressure in here, which means you've got a firmer bite on the friction lining in here, which should cope with a bit more power. And what else does he do? Oh yeah, he puts on a stronger friction lining inside here. So that's how you can make them last a little bit longer in motorsport. Good, there we go. One correctly rigged overdrive M41 gearbox. Thank you.